Dane, how are you feeling tonight?
Feeling pretty good. It's a Friday. Week wasn't bad. Looking forward to the weekend.
How do you feel about pedophilia?
Who the fuck starts a conversation like that?
You know exactly who. Me. But the only reason I asked it was to test you, and you passed the test, my friend. You know what you got? F+. Click. It's a Tenacious D reference. Anyway, Culture Corner is about a German movie about pretty much pedophilia that made a bunch of people walk out of the film festival over there. So we're going to be talking about that and the implications that it has. And speaking of pricks that children don't want inside them, Dane, are you aware that the CDC is trying to pump COVID-19 vaccines into children nowadays?
Been aware of that for quite some time now. Are they escalating?
They're escalating quite quickly. It's almost as though they want to get it through before we can say no. Kind of like the kids couldn't. Anyway, that's going to be our Epstein episode. And now for the main topic, a little mundane compared to the two of them. Biden asked Saudi Arabia to meddle in our elections. Does that sound familiar to anything at all?
President asking a foreign power to meddle in our elections. I believe this is a first. This is a first in American history, I think.
Well, I think so, but not if you believe in the narrative that's been passed down for the last couple of elections, right?
Oh, yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
But with all that being said, do you sign off on my episode?
Yeah, I think your joke was highbrow enough and not, I think we're good.
Nice and sterile. Let's jump in.
Welcome to Weapons and Meme Destruction Podcast, episode 117, which can be found at wmdpodcast.com/117. You can get the podcast audio only on any podcast app. Just search Weapons and Meme Destruction. You can also get the video on YouTube, Rumble, Odyssey, and now Float. Just again, search Weapons of Meme Destruction on any of those platforms. Please, as we always say, like and follow us, and on every one of those you can, because you never know which one we're going to get kicked off of. And with David's intro joke and the Culture Corner segment today, this might be the one that gets us kicked off of several. So
never anything that Dane says. Never. The infallible will never get us kicked off.
Hey, listen, okay?
His rhetoric.
Yes. Anyway.
Violence.
You can also follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Am I forgetting one? I feel like I'm forgetting one.
We have a TikTok again, Instagram, Facebook.
Yes, the new TikTok.
Special space. It's a safe space.
The new TikTok, in case you forgot, since we've been banned a couple times on there. And if
I must have forgot.
If you wanted to refollow us, it is now WMD Podcast _3.0. We are on our third one, working on getting banned over there.
We're willing to go to 100 if you want to keep with us. So,
nameless, faceless, we don't care about you video guy. Make sure you don't clip up a whole lot of the Culture Corner segment or get ready to start making TikTok account 4.0.
Definitely don't show any of the pre-roll.
So, with that being said, let's jump into the Culture Corner segment, which... let's just start out this by saying we understand this is a sensitive topic. It ain't us. We didn't make the movie. We're not trying to force this on society. We're actually calling it out to be as disgusting as it is. David might crack some jokes here or there, but please don't cancel us, cancel warriors.
Up here. Keep it classy.
Yeah. Hopefully classier than the people who thought making this movie was a good idea.
So, Dane, what is the title of this movie, by the way?
This actually comes from an article. I realized after the fact that this is a little bit older story than current events, but it still really hits home on this general idea of trying to desensitize society to extremely disgusting ideas because, listen, you don't have to be a right-wing conservative, moral authority on everything, to find some things so absolutely disgusting and objectionable that they probably shouldn't be allowed in polite society, yet the powers that be think otherwise.
You don't have to walk into a pizza shop with an AK. That's all we're saying. Please don't, actually.
That's true, but you can still object to the direction that some of these people are pushing. So,
Correct.
This article is actually from pre-COVID times, just barely. It's from February of 2020. What a better time February of 2020 was.
It was pre-COVID for us, but the rest of the world was experiencing.
That's
so
true.
It was like,
so anyway, as David alluded to in the pre-show, this film is a sci-fi film called, quote, it's just, quote, Trouble with Being Born. And this was a film put on at a Berlin Film Festival in 2020. And the plot of the film is that a childlike android played by Lena Watson, a real live 10-year-old child, has a definitely heavily suggestive sexual relationship with an adult male. Now, the article is very clear to point out that all of the implied sex scenes in the movie are actually a CGI, so they didn't subject this young girl to actually carrying out some of these uncomfortable scenes, I guess for whatever...
Uncomfortable.
For whatever that's worth in terms of them backing away from the edge just a little bit. But the film, which, again, full disclosure, I have not seen, have no desire to see because,
I wonder why.
I'm not a big fan of sharing child pornography. But in the movie, the android, again, played by Lena Watson, refers to this adult male as, quote, daddy. And I'm just going to quote...
Pause. Is there anything more disgusting than, like, a girlfriend calling, like, a boyfriend daddy? Like, in colloquial terms? Like,
you're talking about even of adult consensual
even if they
relationships?
were adult consensual, even that, it's like... Ugh. Like, what are you two up to? Like, is it weird? It gets pretty weird.
Probably weird.
It gets weird in your bedroom, doesn't it? I don't need to know that. But I'm gonna just have dinner with you and go home and talk about you later with my paramour. So.
My normal non-daddy calling
my
me
missionary only
/wife.
Don't look at me in the eyes during paramour.
So we are going to link to this independent article about the movie at wndpodcast.com/117. You'll see it in the description on these videos. But without reading the whole article, I'm just going to read one short paragraph to give you the gist of what the movie is about. And the paragraph says, quote, while most of the sexual abuse is implied rather than explicit. Thanks for that.
Thank you for implying abuse.
Back to the article, quote, according to reports, the film leaves little doubt that the man, played by Dominic Warta, has a sexual relationship with the child robot. The film also contains multiple nude scenes, which were created using CGI, as I stated before, end quote. So here's the problem. I think it's obvious to anybody that's not a complete and utter deviant what is wrong with this situation. It's not simply the fact, although this is also objectionable, it's not simply the fact that you have a movie portraying, at least implicitly, sex scenes between a young female girl and an adult male. That's problematic in and of itself. But what's even more problematic, or probably not more problematic, but equally as problematic, is the context. David and I were talking about this before, and we're like, yeah, okay, well, some movies that are, based on true events that depict, a minor that went through sexual abuse, that's those movies have been made before. And when you think about the context of those movies, which is, hey, look at this terrible thing that happened to this child. Deplorable. Isn't that terrible?
Deplorable.
Like, that's the point of the movie.
The person that's eliciting the act is a villain in the movie.
Right. That's the point of the movie. Whereas this movie is to subtly nudge you in the direction of, well, an adult male being attracted to a minor female is, I guess, less gross if it's a supposed android, according to the movie. The attraction to at least something appearing to be a minor child is not gross or terrible or whatever. And maybe this is something that society should explore. No. There are topics that there's no business exploring. There is no business exploring artistically or any other way the attraction of an adult male to an underage child. Sorry, maybe that makes me a terrible, evil, no good, very bad conservative and not very progressive for not wanting to, at least partially sanction pedophilic behavior. But that's just where I stand on it.
Dane, I think if there was a moral between any of the producers or any of the people that run any of the studios in Hollyweird or wherever the hell this happened, I would rather see a colonoscopy shot for an hour and a half than you try to persuade me that, like, maybe, just maybe, he's skirted all of the, like, issues of, like, taking an actual kid with actual feelings. He took what it looks like and he just made it into this thing. It's still sentient. It's still aware of itself, but he can be attracted to it and it's not confined to the morals of a normal human being. So, like, if we can go that bridge, well, then maybe we can go a bridge further and just say that maybe it's not so. In the Bible, Mary was 13 when she had Jesus. When she married Joseph, she was sexually viable. She was a full-grown woman. That's the subtle slope down to just depravity.
I guess the thing that I'll leave it off with, and why this is in the Culture Corner, it might already have occurred to you why we put this in the Culture Corner, because you might remember a couple years ago there was a rather famous in terms of the outrage that it generated, and deservedly so. I believe it was a woman who studies sexual attraction or whatever, and she did a TED Talk where she was essentially arguing in the TED Talk that for the phrase minor attracted persons, which is called MAPS. So we shouldn't call them
flag too, by the way.
So we shouldn't call them pedophiles anymore. We should call them minor attracted persons, and it's just like anybody else's sexual attraction, and it's not terrible, and we shouldn't kick them out of society and ostracize them for it and all this kind of stuff. And she had this TED Talk, and it generated a lot of outrage. And again, in David and I's opinion, deservedly so. But whether it's that TED Talk or whether this movie or whether you start to see things in media and the news reports and stuff like that, when you see these subtle little nudges trying to either desensitize you or in more, I guess, explicit terms, try to make it sound like it's okay to engage in these types of deviant behaviors. And I'm not going to make the slippery slope argument of if you make one type okay, then it's going to open the floodgates to a bunch of others. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying is there are some bright lines, even as subjective as morality can be, there are some bright lines that must not in any circumstances for any reason be crossed. And one of those is doing anything remotely sexual, suggestive or otherwise, to a minor child. And when you see things like this, trying to nudge society or just kind of putting feelers out, like, are people going to get mad if we do this? Oh, okay. Well, okay, they got mad, so let's back it off a little bit. We'll try again in a couple of years. And subtly trying to push this deviant behavior as normal or acceptable or something that should be anything other than treated with mental psychiatric help. Your flag should already be way up. And I know for the self-selected group of people that follow and listen and watch Weapons of Meme Destruction, you're already probably agreeing with us that this is highly, highly messed up. But there's a lot of people for which they would sit down and watch this movie and be like, that's an interesting way of conceptualizing the topic artistically. And I really think they had a point with X, Y. No, they didn't. And no, this is not acceptable. And no, under any circumstances should this move any further forward in terms of being normalized in society.
Well, listening to you, Dane, it sounds as though this should have been, if that makes sense, the Epstein portion. Because why would anybody be concerned with dulling the narrative around pedophilia when only moments ago there was a guy that had all the world leaders fucking children on his island? Maybe if some of them were CGI, this would be less egregious. Maybe if we saw it more often, we'd be numb to it. Maybe it wouldn't be such a taboo thing if we made it part of nomenclature. That, again, a society that has no standards has no foundation, and a society that has no foundation will crumble instantly. That you saw it happen with Rome. Every great empire that's ever existed has always crumbled because it let its foundation go.
In most cases, historically speaking, the deviance preceded the crumble. The society decayed in terms of becoming unmoored from any sort of objective morality, to the extent that morality can be objective. Again, I concede and understand that it is subjective in very many regards. But there should be an objective morality when it comes to how we treat children, the most vulnerable members of our society. And to David's point, all throughout history, it's Rome, it's the Weimar Republic before Nazi Germany came to power. It's all throughout history. It happened again and again and again. The society became completely untethered from any sort of morality and just became deviant beyond repair, to the point that, the collapse happened. And oftentimes what stepped into the void of that collapse were tyrants, were people, strong men that were going to bring everything back. And they used things like this to argue for why they should have that power. So to any of our progressive friends that think we're being backward and terrible and no good, very bad people because we don't want to engage in this discussion or this topic on this in the way that this movie suggests that it should be done, you're always worried about the rise of a Hitlerian character. Well, if you picked up a history book, you would realize that this type of stuff is what always leads to that. History doesn't always repeat itself, but it very often rhymes.
Another thing that we say on this podcast nearly constantly. But Dane, with all that being said, seeing as we're fighting for the rights of children, you want to get into the Epstein didn't kill himself phase?
Yes. In today's topic, in the Epstein segment, we're talking about the CDC voting to add the COVID vaccine to its immunization schedule. And at first, upon reading this, I was thinking the schedule that they give newborns and small children. Is this like
a soccer mom schedule that you have to bring oranges this week and then you have to pick up Timmy next week because his mom's going to be working a double shift?
No, you got to bring oranges this week and get COVID jab next week.
Oh.
But similar in that.
But it's for the betterment of the children.
Right.
The children.
So this isn't... the CDC approving the COVID vaccine for this is not, a mandate of any sort by the CDC or by the federal government itself. The states are still left up to having the police power of deciding whether or not it's required. And I believe at this point, only the District of Columbia actually requires COVID vaccination of children before they can go back to school and stuff like that. I don't think any other state requires that now. But I'm not naive enough to think that with this addition to the immunization schedule, that more states like California, New York, etc., may not
children.
Want to. That's right. Put it on a shirt.
Yeah, put it on a t-shirt.
So what this means from the CDC approving it for the immunization schedule is for all federally funded medical programs that have anything to do with funding the shots that are on the immunization schedule. The CDC approving this makes sure that the federal funding can go to that. So, for example, if you are on Medicaid, you're a poor family and you need vaccinations for your children for whatever reason, the flu shot, which is already on the schedule, if your child gets a flu shot, Medicaid will cover that because the CDC has placed it on the immunization schedule. Up to now, the COVID vaccine was not. But now, as of either yesterday or a couple days ago, we're recording this on October 21st, 2022. The CDC voted unanimously, 15-0, to place the COVID vaccine on the immunization schedule so that anybody who gets medical coverage under federal programs can get the COVID vaccine free of charge, and the federal government will pay for it.
That's excellent, Dane.
But especially for kids. That's what the key point here is, especially for kids. Kids. Keep that in mind.
If only there was a podcast that let us know that there's a CDC official that was asked questions about the efficacy and the claims that they made when it first came out. Not a week ago. Did we do that?
That wasn't CDC official. That was Pfizer. Which, by the way, is I have a interesting tidbit about that.
Did I Freudian slip that? Is that going to be the next Pfizer? Oh, is that how it works? We're like head of a government agency, works with a pharmaceutical company, and then all of a sudden they retire from that said government agency and then become a head of whatever bullshit department and get paid fucking 6 or fucking 7 figures just to sit there and jerk themselves off. I digress. Anywho, the Pfizer representative came out and said, no, we didn't have time to check to see if any of the things that we said about it was.
That we didn't have time to check to see if the vaccine stopped the transmission of COVID. They're still sticking to all their other claims that it lessens your symptoms, you have better chance of surviving, yada, yada. They're just saying we didn't test whether or not our vaccine would stop somebody who gets it from transmitting it to somebody else. So I don't want to mischaracterize what the Pfizer representative had to say,
You know how hard it is to have a conversation with you, Dan.
I'm just saying.
Are you aware?
I'm just saying.
How hard it is.
I don't want to be accused
again
by those who would cancel us for the culture corner jokes that we are being disingenuous.
I know the risks that I'm taking, but I charge forward headlong. Thank you for correcting me and making sure that we're on the straight and narrow.
Yeah.
So that we will not get a strike.
Yeah, that's the other thing for YouTube
channel. Anywho, all that being said, and what was the last study on the new Omicron variant vaccine that they studied it on 8 mice and 6 of them are doing pretty okay? Is that what I'm to take from it? But we're going to pump that into our child now? The same one that's had, smallpox vaccinations that's been studied for however many years, measles, typhoid. Don't look up the Tuskegee report.
And who are especially vulnerable because their immune systems are still developing.
Yeah. I don't want to say anything more than that, but other than that, I don't see this as any more than, to be honest with my personal opinion, this looks like an absolute money grab because they knew that they couldn't get people to just sign off on it. Remember when the FDA said, you know what? Children 5 and up can go get a jab. They can go get a booster shot. They can go get this. And then nobody started taking their kid to get it. So now if you're not going to get it, then...
I want to say something like, I saw just on the news the other day, so if I get this wrong, something like 4% of all eligible children, meaning who can get the shot if the parents want them to, only 4% have actually received it. So, I mean, that's good news in terms of 96% of parents aren't completely deficient in their ability to protect their children. 96% are passing that test. 4% not so much, but, that's at least good news.
They won't get called a 96% Jenny McCarthy, anti-vax. You're going to let your kid die of COVID?
Yeah.
How many kids died of COVID? Like 10?
0.
But the 10 had 27.
Yeah.
What were they called? Help me. Fuck. What were the things that helped kill them? The things that probably killed them. What were the terminology?
Pre-existing conditions?
Not pre-existing conditions, but anyway. It was obesity, diabetes, this, that, and the other. Anyway. Causes of mortality, other causes of mortality that were probable that they actually killed him, not the disease himself. Anyway, the 10 children that died, although it's a tragedy, every child that dies is a tragedy, every human that dies is a tragedy, they were sufficiently immunocompromised. Most kids that got that sloughed it off. However, Governor DeSantis took it upon himself to make recommendations saying especially kids from 18, especially males, shouldn't get the,
adults,
anyway.
18 to 39, yeah. As we talked about in WNewPodcast.com/116 just last week.
Or just episode 116.
Yeah, that
This
is
is where you find that.
Anywho. So
we have to save the children, Dane. Save the children. What should the children do, Dane?
So before we move on to the main part of this episode, because David did reference Pfizer, I did want to remind you, and this is the Epstein moment for this segment, is that of the 3 big options, Pfizer, Moderna, and Johnson & Johnson, the only vaccine that is FDA approved, according to Axios, this article, is the only one approved for people 12 and up, so in the child age group, is the Pfizer one. Yes, that very one who admitted that they didn't even bother to test because they were, quote, moving at the speed of science and whatever the market could tolerate, that didn't even bother to test whether or not the vaccine stopped transmission. And as we discussed in a link in episode 116, if you haven't watched or listened to that, go back and check it out. The one that is approved by the FDA for children, the very same that the CDC just put on the Vaccines for Children program list of immunizations, is the one that doesn't even stop the transmission at all. Or they didn't test for it. We don't know if it actually didn't stop it. They didn't test for it. So listen, all I got to say is government is kicking ass at putting money in the pockets of big pharma. Not so much in the realm of health and safety of the American people, which they're supposed to be solely concerned with.
Well, all I'll say is that it just seems so weird that within a short amount of time they could weaponize the word science. Science was such a tertiary word. It was so far removed from anything being controlled, from capitalism, from this, that, and the other. But like, again, I'm sorry. It wasn't, it was always like behind the curtain, like there would be a study that proves that sugars don't raise your cholesterol level, but it was paid for by Big Sugar and whatever. But like, to take knowledge and the pursuit of it and weaponize it, that's impressive, dude. In 2 years, the word science got weaponized in such a fashion that people can't even acknowledge what science really is anymore. The speed of science. When the fuck have you ever heard that word before 2020? There was no such thing as speed in science. It was due diligence. It was taking your time to make sure you got everything right so that when you proved or disproved your hypothesis, you would have everything to back it up. That's science. Speed of science? Fuck you. Where's the speed of science for cancer? Where's the speed of science for diabetes? Where's the speed of science for just fucking our health in this country? There's no speed of science for that. But there's speed of science for COVID because a lot of very powerful people stand to make a lot of money because the speed of science dictates it. Fuck you. Sorry, Dane. On to you.
Listen, I like it when David gets saucy. Usually I'm the one getting
I got
saucy,
a little heated there.
It's good. It's good.
Sorry.
We like it.
I apologize.
So moving on to the main part of the show, we are talking about Biden asking Saudi Arabia to intervene in the U.S. election.
Dane, you can't do that.
I know.
Trump did that.
And only bad
red-haired fucking people that put golden letters of their name on buildings do that. Misogynistic people that fuck porn stars do that, Dane.
So,
not our well-withstanding person that can't make a fucking quote sentence anymore. Doesn't know where he's at any given time. Tries to invite a dead person onto the stage. Does that.
and shake the hand of
an imaginary person. He sees ghosts. He's the sixth sense.
Yes. President Trippy Steps also.
I'm waiting for her to have toilet paper on his heel.
Also is a big fan of meddling in U.S. elections as long as it helps him out. Now, Dane, David, WMD, Sane Space, fellow comrades and compatriots, what are you talking about? Surely, the nominal head of the party who spent 3/4 of Trump's presidency screaming from the top of their lungs about Trump asking Russia to meddle in our elections and how terrible that was and how that's an attack on our democracy and yada, yada, yada. You know all the talking points. You sat through it just like we did. We're sorry for that. Surely that the nominal head of that party would not blatantly and openly do it so as not to at least appear to be non-hypocritical? Surely not. Well, yep, they did. Because Biden, you might remember a month or so ago, actually asked Saudi Arabia to please start producing more oil. And Saudi Arabia, which is essentially the de facto leader of what's called OPEC, which is the organization of countries that are the main oil producers, primarily in the Middle East, but there's also an addendum to that called OPEC Plus, which includes oil producers like Russia, et cetera, et cetera. And Biden asked them...
These fucking idiots. They can't think of a better name than OPEC Plus. OPEC Supreme.
No, of course I can.
Get out here.
At the end of the day, these are still governments. This is not
Where's the marketing campaigns for these government fucking officials? Like,
listen, it doesn't matter.
Spice it up.
It doesn't matter whether
OPEC Extreme. Catch the oil.
David, it doesn't matter whether they're in Washington, D.C. or Riyadh. The people that sit in government are not humanity's best and brightest.
I didn't.
Okay? Anyway, you may have remembered recently Biden asked Saudi Arabia, again, and OPEC by extension, to crank up the pumping a little bit. We need more oil, right? We're suffering from high prices.
Well,
give us some more.
You should have shut down all those pipelines, right? Excuse me, David. Go ahead.
Yes, David. That is another topic, but I would like to get to this one.
He shut down a lot of pipelines. Go ahead.
Yes, he did. Yes.
Fly, little bird.
The shutting down of stuff can come later in this topic without me.
I wanted to get it in before I forgot. Sorry.
Okay.
I'll write it down.
That's why you have a pen and paper. You want mine?
The spirit took
you want my pen?
Hallelujah! I said hallelujah. Sorry. I know I do that a lot.
Anyway, Biden asked Saudi Arabia and other OPEC nations to turn the pumps on a little bit more. Let's get some more supply into the global economy so that we can counterbalance this demand and bring prices down a little bit. Saudi Arabia said no. Then later on, Saudi Arabia said, you know what? As a matter of fact, we talked with a couple of the other member nations of OPEC and we decided we're not only not going to pump out more, we're actually going to reduce production by about 2 million barrels a day because the economics dictate it. And Biden says,
nice.
Listen, if you're going to cut production, I know I can't stop you, but please wait to do it until after the beginning of November. Now, one might wonder,
otherwise known as, I know you're going to fuck my wife, but please just do it. Don't do it at Thanksgiving dinner in front of my kids.
Now, one might wonder, in early November of 2022, what's going on around that time? Oh, yeah, that's right. The midterm elections here in the United States. And if you remember, since Biden's been in office and gas prices have gone through the roof, that's been a really big talking point of the other side. You're paying a lot more for gas with Biden as president. Maybe don't vote for him or people of his party, right? You get the political atmosphere here in the United States. So with that being said, knowing that his neck is on the proverbial voting chopping block, Biden says, delay it until after the election. If there's going to be bad effects at the pump, we want to make sure that everybody gets their votes in before that happens, because then screw them after the beginning of November. We still got 2 more years until 2024 to, maybe make up some lies and smooth over some stuff, and maybe people will vote for us again. If that ain't asking for meddling in American elections, I don't know what is. David, now you can say the things that you want to say. Did you write some stuff down over there?
Oh, are we still doing this thing? Oh,
yeah.
I'm sorry. No. Again, it's just. What are we doing here? What are we doing here? Not at this podcast, but just in America. What are we doing here? Like, every time somebody else accuses somebody else of doing the wrong thing, they're always caught doing that exact same thing. Like, I'll take it as menial as the Minnesota representative that was screaming out against gay rights and gay marriage. And then he's caught in a fucking airport bathroom tapping his toe to get his dick sucked by another guy.
Was that Minnesota?
I think it was it not?
This was a long time. This is like early 2000s. You're really testing my historical knowledge here, but keep going. I'll look it up.
Please. He tapped his toe.
I know what you're talking about.
I just remembered a jaunty tune, but I just so happened to do it in a stall that was known for getting your smash. And then to take it to more the parlance of our times, they say that Trump was a Russian Manchurian candidate, but it turns out that Clinton was actually paying the Russians to get into his campaign and give her the deeds. Then it turns out that Biden is the cognizant grandfather gonna take Uncle Joe. He's gonna take us to the promised land because he's been doing this for years. What did they attack Biden? What did they attack Trump on? Senility, saying he wasn't fit for the position. What can America be summed up in one word? America be summed up in one word. He must have been speaking like one of the lost languages at that point. Maybe he's evangelist and speaks in tongues. But all I know is that he can't form a sentence. His vice president, she's the female role model that every woman should look up to. How did she get to her position? I'm not going to tell you right here, right now, because I don't want to get flagged. I don't want to get I don't want to get a strike. So look it up for yourselves. But suffice to say, she did it the way that you aren't supposed to do it. She Weinsteined it. So my whole point being is that all their rhetoric is a facade, and everything that they accuse everybody else of doing, they always seem to be doing themselves. So again, how can I take any of this with any amount of truth? Truth. That's all I'm asking for, Dane.
Before we get back onto the topic for this, right. I want to tell you what I found, and that I am very impressed with your memory. Because you said Minnesota. It was an Idaho senator, but he was, when he did the toe tapping in the store, hold on. When he did his tapping in the bathroom stall that got him in trouble, he was at the Minneapolis St. Paul International Airport.
Ah, gotcha.
Yeah.
I knew it ended in Minneapolis.
And oh, by the way, his name was Larry Craig, and the whole scandal about this whole thing is when he was in the U.S. Senate, and he still was when this incident happened in 2007, he was a big proponent of being pushing forward anti-LGBT legislation, and then turned out to be, although he always been, and I still think denies to this day that he's a homosexual. But anyway, point is hypocrisy. Hypocrisy abounds. So that was David's point. I think hypocrisy.
Yes.
And that,
E doth protest too loudly, sir.
Yeah. So yeah, but listen, the fact that these people, and what I mean by these people, I mean,
please explain that.
I mean the regime, not just Democrats, even though they happen to control both the legislative and executive branches at the national level right now. And I mean the people that comprise the establishment regime. And so this includes the Liz Cheneys of the world, who, even though she's a Republican, is all in favor of the regime staying in place and in power and all this kind of stuff.
We've gone in on Liz.
What I'm saying about these people and the brashness with which they display their hypocrisy without a care in the world. Like, you would think, like I said in the lead off to this section, that this party that spent so much time and energy ginning up the outrage of Trump allegedly colluding with Russia to steal the 2016 election, which blew up in their face because they never proved it, and because there was not only not any smoke, there was not only no fire, there was definitely no smoke. They spent all of that time doing that, staking their political, hides to the wall, so to speak, to make that happen. And then they just blatantly and openly come out. This article about Biden doing this with Saudi Arabia is in every major newspaper. This isn't some little intrepid reporter that broke this story that nobody knew about. They're just doing it openly because they don't care. They either A, think that you are as stupid as they are, or they think you are so unprincipled, just like them, that you're not going to care because at least it's not Orange Man bad.
You know what comes
and
to
that
mind?
They can get away with anything they want, bend you over the barrel and do anything they want to you, be as openly and blatantly hypocritical as they could possibly be, and they don't really care. That shows you how little they think of you. That shows you how little they think that they work for you. They certainly don't think that. And that shows you exactly what they would do to you if you find yourselves on the wrong side of them. Heed when they do this openly and don't really care.
You know what comes to mind when you bring all that up? There's one image that I just can't get out of my head. AOC putting her hands behind her back like she was in handcuffs and walking with pride towards a vehicle that she knew she wasn't even being detained. She was just putting on the facade of being arrested to cultivate the image of the people that were arrested for the Black Rights Movement multiple times. She doesn't care that she's pretending. She trusts the people that are shooting the shot to only present it in the way that it looks good for her. This whole thing is it's theater. It's all theater. They don't give a fuck about you. They don't give a fuck about what they said yesterday, because if it doesn't fix itself to the agenda today, they just act like they never said it. You can show them a video clip. If they never admit that they said that, or maybe they'll say it was out of context, that's all they have to say, and then they just move on. They don't answer the question. They just move on.
I'm glad you brought up AOC, because I'll bring up one better or add to your thing, and a little bit more recently. I think this was just within the last couple of days, is about this mentality of they don't work for you, they rule you, and they don't care that it looks like that. AOC was at a town hall meeting just yesterday or the day before, and some protesters were there, her constituents, and these weren't super Republican, just there to shout her down. They were her constituents that were upset about her votes of, ginning up war with Russia and the things that she had done in terms of voting along with Nancy Pelosi. Because, right, she's supposed to be this outsider. She's supposed to stand up to the establishment, blah, blah, blah. So they were holding her to her campaign promises. And a few of them started shouting and banging drums. And instead of AOC saying, you know what, my constituents are upset with me over my vote, let me, talk to them about my vote. You know what she did? She sat on the stage of it looked like it was like a school auditorium or whatever. She sat on the stage and danced to the beat of their drum. This is on film. It's going to be on wdpodcast.com/117. It'll be in the link in the description. She danced to the beat of their drum. Now, you might watch that video and say, those people were being unruly. They were being loud. They shouldn't have been shouting at her, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Fine. But just understand that somebody with that kind of power, when she is being confronted with people that are upset with her about her votes, when she's supposed to be representing their interests, her reaction is to dance. To dance. That is exactly, as we say all the time on this podcast, look at what they do, not what they say. That action, almost more than anything else from any politician anywhere on the political spectrum, tells you exactly what they think about you, their constituents. They are not there to serve you. They never thought they were there to serve you. They're there to take pictures. They're there to be put in Vanity Fair puff pieces and their, $40,000 suits when they're talking about the poor and taxing the rich. They are there to aggrandize themselves, and that is it.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, Dane, because I'll take it a step further.
Oh, you're going to step up my step up? We're just going to step all the way to all the steps. There was a step right here, right now. We'd step all over.
We started with a wigwam. Now we're making a mansion. And if the words were true, if they truly believed their words about January 6th, if they truly thought that they were the voice for the people, which they claimed to be, would they be dancing to Dane's drum?
I wasn't the one banging it, but yeah.
I'm sorry. He wasn't a part of the drum circle.
I don't have time to fly to New York and listen to whatever that goofball has to say.
Yeah, the little knucklehead. Anyway, a little rascal. So if that was the case, if they really took the American people so seriously, why would she start dancing to it? When people showed up on January 6th, they try to make it like it was a Trump rally. It was this, that, and the other. No. What the fulcrum of that was is that Americans weren't being listened to by the people that they put in office to be their voice. That was what January 6th was about. Not about Trump not getting elected. Not about stringing fucking, what was his vice president's name? Again, Pence up. They were looking for Pence. They were looking for anybody. Where were all their voices, Dane? They took them so seriously. They're fighting for the American people. Where were they?
Hiding.
Oh, hiding from them. Why do you hide from something, Dane? When you know you're fucking guilty. Why do you, when your mom walks in, you know you ate all the cookies she baked? All of them. What do you just go, yes, mother?
Goes all the way back to Adam and Eve. What did they do after they took a bite of the apple? They hid from God because they were ashamed of their nudity. Before that, they didn't care. They didn't do anything wrong.
Nothing. But they hid. And they'll tell you that it was an angry mob that yada, yada. How many people died on January 6th? I think there was one person that died, right?
I think so, but...
I think so, but again, not a large body count. So you would have to say it was more peaceful than the peaceful protests of the BLM.
Much more. Not even close. More peaceful than one BLM protest, let alone all of them.
Less destruction, less damage than one BLM protest. So if those were peaceful, then January 6th was
peaceful.
Mostly peaceful. Then it means that January 6th was most peaceful out of that whole time. And if it was the most peaceful protest, then why were they scared to be there to talk to the people that put them there? Like, how many artists hide from their fucking fans? Zero. They go out and they sign their shit. They go out and they have conversations with them. If you pay enough money, you can go meet them, hang out with them. They don't hide from you. They know what they're doing. And AOC dancing in front of her, that's placation. That's her knowing she is going to get elected no matter what the fuck her constituents have to say, no matter what the fuck her district has to say. And that, my friend, is what we are dealing with in Washington. People that don't care about your voice anymore. They're not there to represent you. They'll give you flowery language like we say all the time. You said it best. Just moments ago. Don't look at their words, look at their actions. What has she ever done that has moved this country forward? Zero. She keeps telling you how we're holding each other back. She keeps putting out rhetoric that this country isn't good. It's falling apart. Well, what does that lead to? It falls apart. Like, stop listening to the AOCs, the Pelosi's. To say that a senator that's how old is she? 35? She's our age?
I think she's younger than us.
Okay.
33 or 4.
Why would she ever vote in the same direction as Nancy Pelosi, who's an 85-year-old bajillionaire that fucking insider trades and uses this country as a personal piggy bank? Why would she ever see the world just like her? Oh, because she wants to be her someday. She wants to play the role. She's in the cool kids group. She's moving up. That's how this shit works. Like, January 6th was the darkest day of our history. I wish I could make toilet paper. Can we make that? Can we make that product? So that January 6th
Maybe
was
we need to get this podcast in the black before we start worrying about products.
Maybe this will put us there. Maybe this will launch us into super frame. Like, make it a whole toilet paper roll of January 6th was the worst day of American history. So we can all wipe our ass with that sentiment. Because they don't care. They don't care at all. They don't care. They're not even touting it now. We fought a 20-year war over 9/11. They're dancing to a beat of a drum that they don't like what she's doing. She's dancing to it. Like, they don't give a fuck. They still don't give a fuck. So why keep putting them in office? Please, whatever district votes for AOC, if one of you sees this video, clip it, send it to all your constituents, and let them know that she does not give a fuck about you. She's there to propagate her own species. She's got her own little bunker when the nuclear war that she's aiding and abetting starts. She's going to make it fine. She'll make it through the first wave just fine. I don't know how she's going to cultivate a crop, grow cattle, kill other people that have things that she needs to survive. I don't know how she's going to do that without, an armed guard or anything like that. They think they're safe with these bunkers in nuclear war that they're driving us to. We haven't even discussed this on this podcast. We are closer to doomsday than we ever were during the Cold War, but we're still talking about January 6th, climate change, and yada, yada. Sorry, I went on another rant.
Yeah, David's full on.
I'm a little lit tonight.
So
I'm a little fiery.
With that being said, I think that wraps it up for me. Are you wrapped up?
Did I wrap it up tonight?
I think you did.
Whoops. I hope I did a good job.
So anyway,
usually I hand it over to you for the
moral of the story: don't touch kids, vaccine or otherwise.
Yes,
and
I like that.
And Biden is asking Saudi Arabia to meddle in our elections, and isn't that funny in light of Trump's presidency? So, David. Episode 118 next week. It's going to be fun stuff. I'm sure the world's going to keep burning, and we're going to keep bringing it to you.
I can't wait to the podcast where we're just like, hi.
And the world ain't so bad anymore.
Welcome. We're just going to sit here and breathe together.
Yep. So with that being said, David.
Sir?
Oh yeah, I got to do my thing before you do your thing.
Yeah, usually I hand it over to you.
We got everything's out of order.
We're playing with
anyway, this episode can be found at wdpodcast.com/117. You can find it on any podcast catcher. Just search Weapons of Meme Destruction. You can get the videos on YouTube, Rumble, Odyssey, and now Float. And you can also link up with us on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Please do like, subscribe, share, comment, do everything that pumps us in the algo. We are having some success. I think what was the
we
statistic?
got 5 people, bitch.
What was the statistic that Nameless Faceless Video Guy sent us? Over the last 28 days, we got like 17.
He's nameless. He's faceless.
17 additional subscribers on YouTube. We're moving, baby. We are moving. Actually, I think we accomplished our goal. You talk for a second. I'm going to look that up. I think we have more YouTube subscribers than we have episodes.
You couldn't bury the lead a second for me to give me some fucking pre-roll, so
let's keep talking.
We don't like ourselves at this podcast, and we are always poo-pooing our achievements. And
we're speak for yourself. I'm very proud of us.
If that isn't the clip worthy of clips that describes this podcast, I don't know what is. So anywho, we are always giving ourselves shit that we're the 141st Australian political podcast. I'm not there yet. I'm not there yet.
Can I tell you something?
I'm not there yet.
Okay, go.
Go ahead.
We have 117 subscribers, and this is episode 117.
So we're gonna need at least one more you motherfuckers to join.
We need one more by next week. So,
it's a lot of money to gain one subscriber each and every goddamn week.
hey, listen. If you want to support us directly, you can go to
our OnlyFans page, www.onlyfans.com/weapons.
They're going to go to OnlyFans and not be able to find
I've already
us.
set it up. You don't know about it, but I already did it. Carlos and I talked.
Okay, anyway, if you go to wmdpodcast.com,
put them in there.
see the support our work tab, that is where you can donate to us directly. You get bonus contents and stuff for that. You can find all your options there. But if you don't choose to do that, how you can help us for not a dime of cost to you is just by hitting that subscribe button over on YouTube. Because once we get to a certain level that they actually pay us for YouTube ads, and this thing goes in the black, and David and I aren't going into the poorhouse trying to bootstrap this thing.
We're incentivizing them wrong.
Do it. Go for it. Marketing 101. Go.
You don't want them to have advertisements in these videos. So they're going to push us right up to the point where we can get ads on our videos, and then they're going to stop because they don't want ads on this video.
No, David, because they love us and they want us to be successful. And so they will sit through an ad to be able to watch us.
Do you love me?
Yes. Now do the thing.
All right. Well, with all that shameless, heartless plugging, I will say
You're the shittiest capitalist ever.
I'm not a capitalist.
Yes, you are.
I'm a narco-syndicalist commune. We take it in turns to take it as a sort of executive for the week. Anyway, all that aside, Monty Python aside, stay safe, guys, and more importantly, stay free.